This is Bread and Burgers, two everyday burger fanatics in pursuit of that perfect burger.
Join Jon and Jonas as they explore all there is about this tasty treat and deconstruct everything from bun to bun.
We hope you enjoy this discussion about burgers and everything life.
Welcome back to Bread and Burgers. This is episode 10, double
Woo.
digits. Wow.
It's a big landmark here.
Yeah, I mean, there's more to come, but of course, hey, it's a milestone. What do you think so far, Jonas?
I mean, I think it's been good. It's been cool. I've been thinking a lot more about burgers. I've been, practicing making a lot more burgers. I think my burger craft has improved. I want to hear more from you guys, from the audience, and see what you guys think. If you guys have been making burgers, what some cool stuff is. And it's just been good to talk about burgers and everything life.
Burgers and everything. Hey, we got it. Burgers and everything life. There is a friend who watched one of our episodes, and he wanted to make burgers, except for he can't find burger buns and made it on sliced bread. So
what was that? I remember hearing a story about, I think it was like Chris Rock or Eddie Murphy or someone like that was, doing a stand-up bit about how his mom used to make him burgers on like Wonder Bread with like bell peppers and stuff.
Yeah, that's. No judgment, but it's hard, especially again going back to the criteria, right? The soggy bread and the.
Sure.
But it's actually a good thing to see that the burger is being appreciated.
Yeah, I think, and if you discover something that you're like, well, this sliced bread kind of works. I don't know if you were ever thrown off. When I was growing up, because I grew up in the Northeast, we used to get served hot dog on kind of those New England style buns, like the New England style, like kind of lobster roll kind of buns. And I don't know if you've seen them, that they look like kind of like sliced bread versions of hot dog buns.
Yeah, I mean, I've also had just sliced bread hot dogs, which is not good, but I can see that, like the whole lobster roll kind of bread with a hot dog, or I guess.
Yeah, and I always thought it was kind of weird because I didn't know any better. I didn't know it was an actual thing, so I just thought it was like, oh, they're just like folding a slice of bread in half. But so how has the bread and burger journey been for you so far, Jonathan?
Again, it always amazes me to be able to talk about burgers. So it was episode 10. That means that we effectively talked almost 10 hours, right?
Well,
burgers.
Yeah, we can conservatively say probably a little less. So if we assume we spent maybe 3/4 of the time talking about burgers and the rest of the time talking about everything life, then 45 minutes out of the hour.
Yeah, then maybe what, 8 hours or so, to talking about burgers, and again, it's unimaginable to think that there's so much to talk about in terms of the burger, but it's all but one food group, but it's very important, to be able to dissect the burger and just kind of think about what's good, what's bad, why certain things go certain ways, and it's been enjoyable and fun.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah, not to mention that we talked about video games last week, so hey, a good segue, and just completely out in left field, like video games. What does that got to do with burgers? Nothing, but burgers and everything life. So
sure,
yeah,
sure.
So going back to video games a little bit, I suppose, or at least kind of in general, I suppose when people play video games or watch a movie, even reading a fictional book, you have this kind of notion of being immersed in it, into that world, and also kind of maybe an escapist kind of mentality. What do you think about that, Jonas? Like you talked about the game last week that you were playing,
Sure.
and how do you feel about that? Like an escapist or
I think everyone now and again wants to kind of live out a story, even vicariously, kind of through someone else, right? Like you either wish you were that person, or at the very least, you want to see what happens to that character. And I think for us, at the very least, the that's one of the main reasons we get into gaming. Like we see, or we appreciate at least, gaming as a medium of storytelling. And this is not to kind of diminish, right, other people who game for other reasons, right? There are other gamers who are out there, you know, immediately I can think of, say, like people that get really into fighting games or get really into, uh, shooters or something like that, or even like strategy games where it is actually there to either hang out with other people or even hone kind of a technical skill. But I think for us, at least, we seem to be very RPG heavy, which means we tend to be very more into kind of that story aspect. And I think, it helps us to think about kind of bigger ideas, or kind of flesh out kind of what we think about different things based on how we react to heroes or anti-heroes, or specific situations that probably would never happen to us in real life.
Yeah, I obviously I had experience in gaming in terms of like Team Fortress, Counter Strike, also StarCraft, kind of like that, where there's a team, there's strategy involved, and I don't want to discount those games too, but the older I get, I find myself playing more games that are story driven, narratively kind of rich. As I was saying, Horizon Zero Dawn,
Yeah.
and again the immersive aspect of it. You like even like although Aloy the character is a female huntress or hunter gatherer, but nonetheless you just kind of you want to root for that team and be in her shoes and seeing the world, and fleshing out her story. So I think it's to me it's just I like a good story,
Yeah.
whether it's in a book, whether it's in a movie or in video games.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, there are just some stories that it's hard to get into, um, partially because it's just a little too real,
Sure.
for me, right? So
Sure.
I as I was saying, I like a little bit of a mix between realism and then also a bit of a fantasy element, right? Like for example, the
Okay.
game Max Payne, I'm not a
Mm-hmm.
huge fan of, just
Sure.
because it's a little too real for me, if that makes sense.
I can see that. I can see the sense of where certain games appeal to different people for specific reasons. And there is a certain sense of, I think, when I play a game, that I want to be able to like do stuff I don't normally do,
I mean, you can't
or I'm
like
not able to
Max Payne
do.
would like shoot people and
Right,
then slow
right.
down
But like
time, right?
it's in the sense of like it's I want to have my sort of imagination sort of tickled in a certain way, which is why I think for me I lean more towards kind of fantasy science fiction, where even if they try to explain how it works, there is this sense of like this is not based in any sort of reality that we live in, as opposed to something that is more gritty, like Max Payne. A game I played recently is and I understand that I'm kind of late to the game in this, is the Shenmue series, and
That
it's
is a while back.
right, but it's making a comeback because they finally finished Shenmue 3 this year.
Oh, okay.
So
Well, what is
there's an
that
ending
on?
to the story. That's on the PS4.
Oh wow, okay, I didn't
You
know
can
that.
also they
There's a
also
continuation.
reported 1 and 2 to the PS4 as well, so you can play
Oh
the whole thing.
wow.
So, those of you that don't know, the best way I can describe Shenmue is basically it's about a Japanese guy who's trying to avenge his father in who was killed by man from China in the 1980s. And there's a little bit of like mysticism and folklore involved in it, but essentially, at least I haven't played Shenmue 3 yet, but essentially Shenmue 1 and 2 is kind of feels like, one of those old like Rumble in the Bronx type 1990s Jackie Chan movies.
Okay, okay.
And
It's like a 3D version of Final Fight, if you will.
Sort of. I mean, it's basically like Virtua Fighter meets like The Sims meets. I don't know if anyone remembers this, but there's an engine that was used, and this is because it was all developed by Sega as well. There was an arcade game, a beat 'em up arcade game called Die Hard the Arcade Game. And so it's basically a lot of elements of all of that put together. But the thing is right, like a lot of it is sort of like you're running around town and you need to find things to do with your day, and some people will not be available until this time during the day, and you have to go find that person during that time, and you aren't given a lot of like kind of mysterious kind of context, and it's an attempt to be really real. But then there's like really frustrating things about it, because there is a sense, I think, when you're playing a game, and this is just my personal take, like when you're playing a game and it's trying to be as real as possible, there are little things that happen in video games just kind of out of necessity, because you can't 100% simulate, say, like human motion, even with mocap. Like you can't account for everything, or just sprite environment kind of interaction. So when you're playing a game that is kind of supposed to be really real in that sense, and is immersive, like those things kind of stand out more to me, at least, as opposed to like in like a kind of like a fantasy setting, right? Like you're not there's not a part of your brain that says like I thought you were supposed to be real, like you should be able to like jump over this 2-foot ledge, right? It still happens in fantasy games, and it's like super annoying, but I don't know, there's a kind of subconscious part of me that's more forgiving of it.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Like so you're talking about mechanics of a fantasy game versus kind of a more, realistic game. That bugs you. I mean, that's very particular. Because really all games, even when they advertise as you can break all the stuff around you in the elements. For example, like well, I guess Horizon Zero Dawn isn't the most like you can use everything in your element, in your environment, but I was in this boss fight and I was hiding behind a shed, and somehow the shed just didn't break, right? I was fighting a giant machine, and it bugged me a little bit, but at the same time I'm glad that I found that little hole, the not plot hole, but like it just the environment just helped me kind of fight, win that fight easily.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, fantasy elements for me, and then that's why again I love Final Fantasy X. It's set a little bit more like there is that dichotomy between the mystical elements versus kind of the technology side of things. Final Fantasy VII, of course, having like even there, for the most part. The way that the magic is used in that game is based on these materia, these orbs of magical abilities, or ability enhancers, meaning that without them, in theory, you don't have that ability. So there's even more realism in that kind of fantasy element there, and so I think it's quite interesting that way.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's just a good, storytelling medium, and I appreciate fantasy regardless of kind of the type of fantasy, everything from high fantasy to what we'd call modern fantasy, which I would say, those of you that can't think of anything that's like quote unquote modern fantasy, this is more like movies, I think, than necessarily game franchises that do this. So modern fantasy movies would be things like Underworld, or I would, I don't, the Dresden Files. Otherwise, I don't really enjoy necessarily these franchises, but they are kind of modern fantasy in the sense of it's essentially like fantasy taking place, like if magic were real in today's modern world.
Doctor Strange, maybe.
Doctor Strange, yeah. I mean, Marvel is a whole nother kind of boat we can jump into where yeah, I might consider all of Marvel kind of like that. But even like something like Harry Potter, or like the Twilight series, like in a certain, that I'm just listing examples, not necessarily endorsing any of these.
Yeah, I mean, but again, it's just, wow. Let me how to think about how to rephrase this. When you know that, how do you know when a game works, right? It's when you're playing a single player game, and a person next to you seems interested. Like my wife was actually sitting next to me, and we were playing Horizon Zero Dawn, and she's like, "What is this about?" And then she started kind of looking at it, or talking about it, and I think it's just very interesting that, like, wow, she doesn't want to pick up the controller and snatch it from me yet, but nonetheless, she wants to go and see the story progressing.
Yeah, no, there's definitely an element of a story well told, and I think for a story-based game like Horizon Zero Dawn, it is very telling when a non-gamer is willing to watch you play like they're watching a movie, like that person is watching a movie. I had a friend who, they're a couple, the husband likewise kind of games a little bit, and he was saying how his wife loved the Uncharted series. Now, she didn't play any games. She was, as far from a gamer as you can imagine, but she would like bug him to move on in their save in the Uncharted because she wanted to know what happens next. And that to me is telling that Uncharted is just a very well written story, right?
Yeah, I mean, who knows where this kind of road leads to, right? Maybe we'll have a Bread and Burgers reviewing, narrative games. How many burgers? Like 4 out of 5 burgers, 5 out of 5 burgers, with extra cheese. Like it's just something that we like to do. And again, there are other channels, other people who are much more experienced in terms of reviewing games, playing games, than maybe you and I, Jonas. So
Definitely,
we like to talk about burgers, and there are a lot of people who are better burger cooks than us too. But we like to talk about burgers, so that's kind of where we want to focus. Obviously, for 45 minutes. I don't know, something like that.
See. Okay.
Yeah. So life aside, going back to talking about hamburgers, we would like to talk about what is your top, like, cream of the crop kind of burger that you had.
Sure.
What is it that you can think of, which is the best one for you so far?
For me, this is kind of no contest. It is hands down a burger called the Sonora in the Fremont district of Seattle.
Okay.
It's the burger is called the Sonora. The restaurant is called Unida Burger, Uneeda Burger. It's this kind of small business, kind of pub bar slash burger joint. Right, it's kind of one of those places where Fremont District is kind of where a lot of the smaller tech companies have offices. Like their tech companies have smaller offices. So like Google, Adobe, all of those sort of companies are in the Fremont district. And so a lot of kind of young professionals, you'd go there and, you know, either grab a drink or grab dinner, that sort of thing. So I had heard about it actually through, I think through the local Yelp community manager,
Oh,
because
wow.
at that time I had been put on she had put me on to Elite that year. And so,
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, there's a lot of, you know, positives and negatives about Yelp. So,
sure.
not
But
going there,
she
but like,
she
wow. I
kind
mean,
of
that's
mentioned
pretty
it.
good too.
She kind of mentioned it, and I said, well, I guess I have to try it out sometime. And so before I moved out of Seattle, my small group and I decided to go there and try it out. And the Sonora is their signature burger, and it's a really pretty straightforward burger, actually. Their signature on it is actually this chili relish.
Oh, that's interesting.
And,
So a little heat.
and yeah, it's not a lot of heat. It's not really like it's less heat than, you know, banana peppers. But it's sort of this sweet and tangy, and there really wasn't much else on it, right? It's basically like a cheeseburger with their specialty chili relish. And that's basically it, right? Like no lettuce, no tomato, that sort of stuff. And that just sort of stood out to me, not because there was something like extraordinary about any particular ingredient, but just the kind of thought and the way that everything sort of worked together. And it was just one of those literal like I had that moment of taking a bite, and I was like now I understand those people that say, like, you know, one bite and you'll be like blown away or your life will be changed forever. Like that was kind of it for me.
Wow. Okay.
So that place, what I could tell about Unita Burger, and I would recommend almost every single burger on there. I recommended it to a friend who later moved to Seattle, but whenever he would visit his girlfriend in Seattle at the time, he would say, like, every time I go, I need to go to Unita Burger because that's how good it is.
Wow.
And so they would make a special trip just for one meal there. And to me, right, like what made that special is actually the first time I went, I was able to talk to the manager.
Okay.
And he talked about just kind of how he's really proud of the burger, and looking at the menu and hearing the manager kind of just talk about his product and the store in general, like I could immediately tell that this was like every single item on the menu. I think there were like maybe a dozen or so burgers on the menu, plus a couple of seasonals, like an elk burger or something.
Wow. Okay.
But I could tell that like I got this very distinct impression, and I could tell by talking to the manager and how he responded was that he and the chef literally made and tried every single burger before putting it on the menu.
Yeah, I mean, and that's something to be said. It should be like that also, right? That you should like your own food, and it seems like he does.
And well, to the point of it was that like you didn't see a lot of kind of the shortcuts that people, like a lot of burger joints kind of take, in the sense of like, well, we kind of do specialty onion rings, but we know that onion rings and barbecue sauce work together, right? And so obviously we need an onion ring barbecue sauce burger, or those sort of combinations that a lot of people have tried, and not to say that they're bad, but just kind of the very almost cliched kind of combinations that people have, that we know about, right? You know, barbecue and onion rings and bacon.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta feed the crowd too, right?
Bacon and blue, right. And so, but I appreciated just that sort of well thought out sort of willingness to say, like, well, this isn't look like a normal burger, but you know, we've tried all of this stuff put together and it works.
Yeah, that sounds like something that I want to try whenever I visit Seattle.
Yeah.
Okay, so so it's in some ways. I mean, besides that chili, what's special about that burger? Like in terms of the patty itself, or the bun, or the other
So again,
fixings.
it wasn't any one thing that stood out. It was very much an epitome of the whole being greater than the sum of its parts.
Okay.
Right? Everything from like the chili was the most distinctive thing because that was what stood out the most. But the patty was just it was well made. You tasted the beef, but it wasn't kind of too greasy or too dry. And everything is just kind of when you take that bite and all of the flavors blend together.
Okay.
Is just there's just some kind of culinary magic that sort of happens.
You keep throwing these, just words that don't really mean much, euphemisms, if you will. But okay, I give you that one.
It's one of those like you kind of have to try it. I can't do it justice, right? Like it's you know I don't know about you because maybe you spent longer in California than I did and you got there younger, but it's kind of like that like first In-N-Out burger. After like hearing a lot of people about it, and he's like, okay, what makes In-N-Out so good, right? Kind of thing.
There's a
And
story
it's
behind that too, but
I mean, for me, it was one of those like when I first had In-N-Out, it was actually I was flying back to Seattle from Davis, and we got In-N-Out drive-through. Like we didn't even go into the restaurant and eat. And the first time I had it, I was like, it's one of those like you bite into it and you're like, I understand in my brain, there's nothing special about any of these individual parts, but for some reason, like this is good. Like my first reaction to In-N-Out is like, yeah, this totally lives up to the hype.
yeah, and we kind of talked about that too, but kind of, well, we'll get in and out, and I'll talk about my ultimate burger, but truthfully, I don't know if I ever had that like, wow, this is like the best burger ever. Yeah, of course, there's time that I would love to go get in and out. If I may though, a a fresh McDonald's quarter pounder with cheese can
Okay,
actually hang with it. And
I
that was
can
my initial thought of having
I
In-N-Out
can
for the first time.
I can kind of see that. Quarter pounder with cheese was not my go-to
It's certainly
in
not either,
McDonald's.
but yeah.
Yeah, so I actually did not start getting quarter pounders with cheese until recently
Oh,
when they introduced the quarter pounder with cheese deluxe. They had the slice of tomato and the lettuce.
uh-huh.
Yeah, before for me it was always either like the Big Mac or two cheeseburgers.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, even though the Big Mac is awesome on its own right, but it's also kind of, the meat is kind of anemic. So yeah, the quarter pounder is a I think it's a good burger,
Okay.
McDonald's standards, and I think, in terms of fast food, it does hang with, a lot of the other ones too. So
Sure.
that's the reason why I said, In and Out. People said that it's so good, and everything, but it's good. It's good. I like it. I like In and Out. Um, but at the same time, I'm not sold on the hype as much
Well,
than
I think
my
it's
peers.
also a sense of like scarcity, right? Like this is like for
Yeah,
me,
sure.
In and Out was like, you see the two guys in upstate New York wearing In and Out t-shirts and man, I hear so much about that place. And so when you go to California, right? Like it's kind of like you have to make a special trip.
Okay, okay.
And I think there's we've talked about consistency and there's stuff they do well, right? My brother, when he was at Berkeley, one of the trips that they would do for freshmen, right, or international students, to kind of as kind of a church outing was they would take them into SF and they would do kind of an afternoon or trip into SF from Berkeley, and they would only go to two places. They would go to Ghirardelli's for ice cream,
Hmm.
and they would go to In and Out.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I mean those are very
And
unique
it's just kind of
places.
like it's very much like this is like welcome to California kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it's very unique. And again, we'll devote a whole episode about San Francisco maybe. But like, let's get this back on track a little bit. The best burger. I'm going to actually. This is a good segue. I have a burger restaurant that I've frequented a few times, called Burger Bar, in
Sure.
San Francisco, and the chef is Herbert Keller, and it's actually on the sixth floor of the Union Square Macy's. So it's a little weird because it's a restaurant that's situated inside a department store, and you don't think about these restaurants often. I mean, but in the Union Square Macy's in San Francisco, there is the Cheesecake Factory that overlooks kind of that Union Square area in San Francisco. So a lot of people go there, and on the sixth floor, so kind of halfway in that building, you have this burger restaurant that also have this kind of amazing view of that area.
Okay.
So one, it feels kind of preppy, to have a burger joint there. But two, the burgers are really good. Being called Burger Bar, they better be right.
Sure.
And so one of my favorites is called the La Frog burger, which is a caramelized onion. No, actually, no, it doesn't. It has melted brie with portobello, and also with truffle mayo on an onion bun. We just talked about
fancy.
the bun last episode.
Sure.
And so, the melted brie is one of the key ingredients, of that. Of course, the truffle mayo too. But the melted brie kind of gives that little funkiness, a little bit of texture, that smooth cheese. And
Yeah, it's
so
always fun to play with different cheeses when you're trying new burgers.
yeah, so that kind of burger, so it's really good. Although and most of their burgers are like that, which I'll get into a few other ones as well. But most of their burgers are actually 2 inch thick, so it's a little big. It's hard to bite
Sure,
in one
sure.
bite. So it kind of lends itself to being a knife and fork kind of burger, which minus points there, but nonetheless, it's really good. So like looking back at the menu, there's also a create your own burger, and of course it can be good or it can be disastrous, right? But there is step two. Step one, choose your beef. You can have like Angus beef,
Sure.
standard buffalo or Kobe even. And step two though is choosing your bun, and here it is. Wait for it: sesame, plain, ciabatta, whole wheat, gluten-free, onion, sourdough. We left that off the list last episode, and jalapeno. So
Okay.
that's their bun choices.
I would take so here's the thing, right? Sourdough is something you definitely see more in sandwich shops than you would for burgers.
Right.
But I think you can make like good sourdough. I didn't really include sourdough so much simply because the way to make sourdough kind of like a burger bun makes it kind of pretty much just like maybe a tangier brioche. As opposed to right like and so I would say like go for it as long as you're not using like a sandwich sourdough, which is kind of like Dutch crunch. Like
Yeah.
I would not use Dutch crunch on a burger.
Yeah, and but ultimately because it's in San Francisco, right? So
Right.
you kind of pay
Sure.
homage to like the San Francisco sourdough, and again the way that since it's offered as a choice, for you to build your own, and also all of these choices are on one of their signature burgers, so that's why it's there. There's no reason to not include it if he didn't put it into. Or if you already put it into a burger that he has, why not allow you to choose if you're building your own? So if you look at the other burgers on the menu, then you would see, oh, okay, so this onion bun was used in La Frog, that bun is used somewhere else. So they really put thought into the burger, and again, as it should, because the name is Burger Bar, right?
Sure.
There's a burger which I've never gotten to try yet. I don't think I would ever, because on the price alone, it's $65. It's Kobe style Wagyu beef from Australia, so Australia Wagyu, and sauté foie gras. Now, I personally, I've
Foie gras
had it.
burger.
I've had foie gras before,
Oh,
but I
interesting.
also kind of, um, I kind of ethically stand on the other side of that ethics line, um, because I don't like the way the foie gras is made.
Isn't
So
it like illegal now, or is it
it got rolled
restricted?
back, which
Oh,
is
okay.
which is I don't know. But there is also there's still a ban on shark fin in San
Mm,
Francisco,
okay.
rightly so. And but at the same time they roll back foie gras, so I'm like, um,
Yeah, I to me there's a sense of there's a time and place for everything, and I'm not too keen on a lot of these, like we're gonna use like super high end ingredients,
hmm,
and maybe that just means I'm not artistic enough as a chef, but especially for something like a burger. I
okay,
think. In the sense of like I can appreciate a good Wagyu burger, but
hmm,
when you get to the point when you're like excessively like we're just gonna cover this with because I think there's places. I'm not saying Burger Bar does this because it sounds like they're probably very tastefully and they consider it, but the idea of like I'm just gonna use like truffle
on
because it's
everything.
expensive, and so I'm gonna put truffles on this burger, or I'm gonna put like gold leaf on this burger, right? So like to me, right, like I would never go to Vegas and try Gordon Ramsay's $300 burger, right?
Yeah, like 65 is bad enough, but 300, ooh,
Because there's an aspect of it where it's kind of like unless it's right, like if you're making a $300 steak into a burger, like that's already a travesty in and of itself. But then like I can't think of like even if you make like a $50 Wagyu patty, like I can't imagine what the other like let's say $220 of ingredients plus the labor or whatever is going into it.
you're paying for the star, right? The
Sure.
Michelin star. Yeah, I mean, I again, I don't want to knock it before I try it, but at the same time, it's hard for me to muster up 20 like $65 for a burger, let alone like you know
Yeah,
300
there's
or something.
there's there's definitely times when you look at something and you're like, I don't know if this is like too much. And it's not even just in the sense of like cost, but just like when burgers joints kind of try too hard. Like you can tell this was sort of maybe not the chef's idea to put these on the menu kind of thing. I remember when one of my first visits to Boston. There's this place next to Berkeley School of Music called the Boston Burger Company.
Hmm.
And so you're like, well, obviously this has to be like the quintessential like Boston burger place. And I go in and the burgers are pretty good. It's a pretty small place, so it's pretty crowded. You have to wait a little bit to get a table, but and the burgers are pretty good. But they had a lot of like really gimmicky stuff, like oh, mac and cheese on a burger, or like a ham sandwich on a burger kind
A
of
ham
stuff.
sandwich on a burger. It's like a turducken burger. Uh,
Maybe.
like a ham. Oh wait, well, it's called a hamburger, so ham sandwich burger.
Yeah, something like that. Or I mean, they would call it like they would give it creative names. I think that one was like the Archie or something.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
you know, and I'm not getting these exactly on, but there's a certain point where it's kind of like I like mac and cheese and I like burgers. Do I think it would be would it do I think it would taste bad like mac and cheese on a burger? No, I don't necessarily think it would taste bad. I just like that's not necessarily a combination I'm really like looking like I don't think it'll add anything to my love of mac and cheese and burgers.
Yeah, okay. I mean, you might be swayed, but so kind of continuing on though here, which the next burger that we can talk about is the worst burger you had. But I I'll continue on this burger bar journey because there's a story to be had. I was with a friend, a coworker, before, and we were there. And he wanted to prove his chops of eating spicy foods, because of his ethnicity, nationality, kind of thing. So like, I'm gonna prove my chops. And there is this burger on the menu called World's Hottest Burger, right? So
Okay.
it says it's 2 million Scoville units, which. So Black Angus burger, right, with the world's hottest hot sauce, and jalapeno and habanero peppers stuffed into the burger itself.
Okay.
And of course like habanero peppers, jalapeno bacon, tomato, chipotle aioli. So everything is spicy. And unfortunately for my friend, he ate 2 bites and he was done.
Yeah, there's a point when spicy just kind of like it's more of a I'm not sure if it's great, right? Like there's a I think this was like the first ever episode of like Man versus Food was a burger challenge. And it was this place I think in San Antonio called the Four Horsemen Burger. And basically what the challenge was is you have to finish the burger in like 30 minutes and then you have like a 15-minute waiting period where you kind of have to just survive with no, with nothing, with no like liquid,
Wow.
afterwards. But basically all the burger was it looked like basically like a third pounder or quarter pounder cheeseburger with ghost chili sauteed in a habanero sauce on top.
Yeah, like ghost peppers is one of those things that I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna touch that with a 10-foot pole. I mean, it's just I don't mind spiciness, but that is just like torture. So
There's a point where it's just not enjoyable, right? Like it's not even that it's so spicy, but it just doesn't taste good.
yeah. So
Like
I think
yeah.
that world's hottest burger from Burger Bar, it tops my list of being the worst burger. Now I'm not talking about like worst prepared burger. Of course, if you had a burger where it made you sick or it was just like really poorly made, then of course it could be bad. But like what's one that someone tried to do, very like crafted, and yet it just doesn't come out right.
So I think when you go into that realm, there's 2 burgers that I kind of think of. The first one I think is no longer around, and this is more. I'm not gonna say. I would say this is more on me than necessarily the person making the burger because like I should have known better, and that
Oh,
was the McDonald's Angus XT third pounder burgers.
okay. Why?
So
McDonald's fan, so.
well, I mean, so the third pounder, right? Like it was supposed to be the bigger, the nicer, the kind of the deluxe burger. There was the kind of spiritual successor to the Arch Deluxe in the 90s.
Yes.
My problem with it was simply that it's the way that McDonald's processes their meat, and so when you get a lot of it at once, it's just kind of weird.
Like it's good with the Big Mac. It's great with a quarter
Like the
pounder, but
cheeseburger, right? And the quarter pounder is just you're kind of pushing it, but it's still okay. But then when you get to like an Angus third pounder where you're at like a quarter to a half inch thick, it's just like I can taste all of the processing that goes into this.
yeah, okay, fair enough. So you think it was the meats or just in general, just too much McDonald's for you? For
Yeah,
that
it
burger.
was just sort of like I tasted the processing plant when I was eating the burger. And so that was really kind of like, okay, now I know like what to stay away from. Like big patties don't work in McDonald's. And that is just like my personal take. The burger to me that was like the most deluxe, but just didn't work as a burger was my one and only burger challenge I ever did. There's a chain of stores. I know it runs in the Northwest because I think there's one in like Oregon, but there's kind of big in Seattle. We used to always go for people's birthdays because they would give you like they have this like they call it the Mile High cake, and it's just like it's this really towering ice cream cake that they give to whoever's on their birthday. So they created a burger challenge, and if it's this place called the Ram. And so they created this burger challenge, and if you've heard about the Ram before, there used to be another burger challenge before it, and what they're known for is the Ram Burger, which is a 1 pound burger, kind of like Fuddruckers. And they have a 1 pound burger, which they serve on a plate with a steak knife in it, so that sort of thing. And so originally, apparently, there was a challenge well before I got to Seattle, which was like 2 Ram burgers, like basically 2 orders of the Ram burgers and fries, and like if you finished it, you get it for free. Apparently that became an issue because like the university football team was using that to get like free meals and therefore getting really out of shape.
Okay, and apparently the university football team players can finish that.
Yeah, and so later they came up with a new one, and it was, I forget what it was called. It was like the Ram Challenge or something, right? And they don't give it to you for free. They just give you like they give you a T-shirt that lists everything that's on the burger.
Okay.
Apparently, I was the first one at that specific restaurant to ever accomplish this challenge.
Wow.
I don't even know why I did it. I did it because my friends are like, Jonas, it's your birthday. You love burgers. How would you like to try this 5-pound burger? And me in my, youthful days was like, sure, why not? So the burger was basically 3 of the 1 pound patties plus like a head of lettuce plus corned beef plus ham plus bacon plus, and it's just this extraneous list of stuff, right? Like it's a large T-shirt with the picture of the burger in the middle and like 20 something ingredients alongside it. Just like everything that goes into the burger. And I say that it was like, not just was it like a lot of a burger, but the sense of like there was no way for me to eat it like a burger. Like I couldn't enjoy it like a burger, and it just, so in that sense it just didn't work, right? Like because you have all of this like corned beef on top, and the simple fact that like you're stacking 3 large, like 3
Are there anything but
patties.
between the meat, like there's cheese on the
there's
patty?
cheese,
Okay.
right? Like it's basically like like imagine like a triple Whopper extreme
Okay.
plus like
Well, it's
a
3
deli
pounds.
on top, a deli on top, right? So it was the sense of like the only way that I could attack it was like I ordered like 3 different sauces, and then I pulled out the patties like one by one and ate them like Salisbury steak.
Wow. Okay. So you effectively did not treat it as a burger.
It was hard to, and then so for me, like I tried to do it for the last patty, just so like I could have that burger experience. But by the time you get there, like you've eaten so much other meat that you're just like, whatever. I don't, because the burger in and of itself wasn't like a great burger either. Like it's not it's not bad, but it's not great, right? Like if I wanted to be kind of cynical about it, like it's probably on par with like a Denny's burger.
Oh. Ooh.
where it's it's decent, maybe a little dry, and you add your own condiments kind of thing.
Okay.
So that was for me maybe like one of my worst burger experiences.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it. And again, analogous to that, you talk about Fuddruckers where they have a 1/3 pound, a 1/2 pound, a pound, and I believe you can keep going up. But again, just like even the pound burger is not like it's not just like 2 1/2 pounders stacked. It's actually one giant patty, and
Right.
Towards that end, it's just too much. My college roommate and I, we used to have these things too, where it's not necessarily a challenge, but we would go and go to the grocery store, buy a pound of steak each, and then cook it and then eat it, right? Or buy a pack of cocktail shrimp and then cook it and eat it. And it's very raw, if you will, not like raw as in not cooked, but like if you think about it, it's just steak, that's your meal, or cocktail shrimp, like a pound of that. and so we went to Fuddruckers, and I only had a third pounder, I think, and just because the 1 pound is too much. No, two-thirds
Yeah,
pound. I had a two-third pound. It's two-thirds. It's not a whole pounder, but yeah, it's just way too much. And you can't
yeah.
eat it,
The
and you can't
other
enjoy it as like a burger. So
Well, so the other place that has that mentality, and this is to me, right, like the burger place that I would consider like a great idea kind of gone bad is the Counter.
okay, okay.
So the Counter is, for those of you that don't know, is this chain of kind of sit down, build your own burger place in California. And the thing that like I really appreciate about the Counter is that their ingredients are really fresh.
Yes.
Like you can taste them; they're really fresh. The catch with their burgers, and like Fuddruckers, they have the third pound, two-third pound, 1 pound options. I don't know how they did this, but it was very precise because their poundage is actually post-cook weight.
Oh, wow.
So I tried a two-thirds the first time I went, and I was like, "Wow, this is a lot of beef."
Yeah, because we talked about burger shrinkage and all that stuff, right? Like two-thirds pound post cook. Maybe they cook it in giant, like a sheet, and then they just cut it out or something. But yeah.
Like I don't know how they do it. I know that they have a way like where they measure it, and this is like a one-third pound, and you can tell that when they cook the two-thirds pound or the 1 pound, it's just they're literally as it's cooking, they're slapping the patties together, right? Like it's like you can if you when you bite into it, like you see the delineation between the three patties that went out together to make this one patty.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, and obviously it just didn't rub you the right
It's
way.
hard to do, and then the other part of that was and I think I mentioned this in the condiments episode, right? Is kind of their pre-constructed burgers aren't really like that great, and the build your own burgers is just too easy to go wrong because they have so many kind of eclectic things like black bean salsa or you know um, uh, like corn or the kind of weird stuff that like it was like okay, I can see this kind of working on the burger, but if I put them all together, it's kind of weird and this kind of weird, disgusting succotash kind of thing. The biggest thing for me that like the fail in the burger was when I ordered steak sauce as my condiment. They gave me au jus,
Oh, right, right. You talked about that.
right? And to me, right, it's just kind of like okay, what am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah, well, dip it in like a French dip. Yeah, I mean, it can go. So I guess there are more places that does a burger wrong than places that does a burger right. You think?
Possibly. I would here's a question I want to throw at you because I think this is an interesting question. Where is the most surprising place you've had a good burger? Like you're like, I did not expect this to be this good coming in. Like I don't know about you, but for me, like a lot of times when I go to a certain place and I'm not super excited about, especially like these chains, right? I'll be like, you know what? I don't, I'm just going to order a burger because that looks like the kind of the least, like it's the thing I would
Least
dislike.
threatening option.
Right. Like it's the thing I would dislike the least out of what's available here.
Okay.
And so what for you, what was that? Did you ever have an experience like that? And where was that?
I think once. It was an IHOP.
Okay.
So kind of like Denny's and the IHOP there, and of course, you go to IHOP, you want pancakes, right? That's a safe option. But for some reason, I wanted the burger. I forget exactly what it was, but I just remember it was like I'm like, wow, this is decent. There's a sesame bun, there's the tomato. I think it's a normally I wouldn't just order a normal burger, just because like again I can make that at home. So, but I just remember how like the meat quality was really good, on point. The bun was really good and on point as well. So again, like in terms of like you would never expect IHOP to have a good burger, and yet it did. It's probably a mushroom Swiss because that's my go-to kind of safe burger, and so I enjoyed it. Would I do it again? I don't know because usually breakfast places like Denny's and IHOP is a hit and miss for
Okay.
anything else aside from their breakfast.
Sure. I think for me, my biggest recollection, and apparently this was enough of a thing that they made like a whole menu subsection out of it. But my biggest, to me, right, like one of the places that I enjoy a burger a lot, especially if we're going, and this is, and I throw this out there because like I know a lot of people who don't like burgers, and this is a good place to go for them too. Is actually, you mentioned it, Cheesecake Factory.
Okay.
And the first time I had it, Cheesecake Factory didn't have a burger section in their menu. Now they do. The burgers are still pretty good. I don't think it's quite as good as when I first had it. And so it was in their list of like specials, I guess. And one item on the special was this, is just called the Wagyu burger.
Okay.
Right? Like, I don't know if it's like real Wagyu or whatever, but they called it Wagyu burger. Right?
If it's
Or
not
Kobe
like 50
burger.
bucks, it's probably not.
It's like it was like $15, right?
Okay.
So I was like, okay, it's kind of expensive for a burger, but you know, we'll go for it, right? The Kobe burger. I think it was Kobe, not Wagyu, but it was basically they called it Kobe burger. And it came out, and I was like, I remember I was at like a birthday party or something, and I came out and I was like, this is surprisingly like much better than I thought. Because at first I thought it was like, okay, they just say Kobe because they want to be pretentious and fancy and that sort of thing. And then I tried it, and it was like there's like grilled onions, and it's like very no frills, right? And I was like, this is actually surprisingly really good, right? Like this is good enough to become my go-to item at Cheesecake Factory.
Wow.
And you know, lo and behold, now they have a whole burger section in their menu at Cheesecake Factory.
Yeah, I mean, Cheesecake Factory is actually pretty decent, for a chain. For some reason, like when our relatives come visit from Hong Kong, they always want to go, even though there's one in Hong Kong. And but nonetheless, it's safe. It's a safe, kind of American slash Italian inspired maybe kind of cuisine, and so it's just kind of our go-to.
Yeah.
I mean,
PF Chang's.
I would, yeah, I would like, I like obviously a lot, other like fancier chains and all that. Not chains, fancier restaurants. But again, from time to time,
You know
we would
what you're
go.
getting when you walk in, right?
Yeah.
And that's sort of the like for me when I go out to eat, right? I know kind of like especially with my parents because my parents are very unadventurous, and so
Sorry, Jonas's parents, don't watch this.
when it comes to food at least their go-to for like Italian food is Olive Garden, and so like when I take my mom out it's sort of like, well, Cheesecake Factory, I know that she's gonna be able to get like she has something she likes there kind of
Okay.
thing. As opposed to somewhere where I've gone that I really like, but then my mom is kind of like looking at the menu is like, what is this, what is this, what is this kind of thing. Yeah. My other experience with that actually is weird because it's a particular Shell gas station on the I-5 in in the middle of Washington State.
Okay. I hope people don't go there and get turned into ground meat or something. But yeah.
It's no, it's the Shell gas station on the Castle Rock exit, and the Castle Rock exit is kind of significant because that's how you get to Mount St. Helens. But I remember I didn't even know that when I first visited there, and I just stopped in and it was like, oh, hey, it's a gas station, and they have like a grill in the back. Right, like it's like a fancy, like you know how some gas stations they maybe have like an ice cream bar and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
This one it had like a full grill, right, and kind of thing in the back. I don't remember if it was even like really up and running, but then I was like, oh, I'll give it a try, and I tried it, and I was like, wow, this is pretty good.
Wow. So gas station food, and then again, there's quite
Don't
a
knock
bit
it.
too.
Don't knock it. I mean, some of the best Chinese food in Davis comes from a gas station.
They moved. They moved. Yeah. So I know exactly the one you talk about. But anyway, well, I guess it's time to ask you guys, the listeners, the viewers, what's the best burger you ever had? Let us know. Or
Yeah.
what's the worst burger that you ever had? Let us know too. We want to see. We want to hear about it. And then finally, the third one is, what is the most unexpected, kind of burger or burger experience you've had? Let us know. Let us know in the comments below.
Yeah. And also don't forget to click on the subscribe and that bell. And don't forget to like the video if you like it.
Or, if you don't like the video, just press the like button twice.
Yes, double clicking the thumbs up.
Yeah.
That will that's the solution.
Yep.
Don't forget Jonathan
anyway,
was a programmer. He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. Anyway, hope you guys stay safe and just try a burger sometimes and let us know.
Yeah.
See ya.
Hope
Oh,
to hear from you soon.
no, that outro doesn't work.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, see ya.